Tonight, we can finally dispose of all of the speculation around the singer known as David and the underage girl found decomposing in the trunk of his Tesla. Up until tonight, there'd really been no definitive proof that David Anthony Burke was actually in a romantic relationship with Celeste Rivas Hernandez. But now there is.
Reports as well. The body of the girl found in David's trunk, Celeste Rivas, has been released back to her family. And here, as you can see, to corroborate with those other headlines, you can see here the case number along with Celeste Rivas, date of death, September 8th, 2025, age 15. So they've officially ruled out her death date as being September 8th, 2025, meaning that she would have died just one day after her birthday or within that 24-hour
by the way,
period.
that the house David was staying at was searched last week, and that's near where the Tesla was parked, and cops were in that house spraying luminol all over the place looking for blood evidence, which is not hard to connect the dots. I think they were trying to figure out
whether or not she was killed there in that house.
And then put in the...
Since she was found in David's car, was she killed in David's house?
That's right.
They say when the other shoe drops, you better be ready for the impact. Well, that shoe just hit the ground with the force of an earthquake. 2 weeks ago, we told you about 15-year-old Celeste Rivas, whose remains were found in a Tesla belonging to rising music star David, also known as D4vd. We told you about the songs that seemed to confess to everything. We told you about the timeline that didn't add up. But what we couldn't tell you then, what nobody knew then, is that this case was about to blow wide open in ways nobody saw coming. The FBI just raided a $20,000 a month Hollywood Hills mansion. Friends are breaking their silence. And get this, new evidence suggests Celeste might have been alive as recently as August 2024, spotted at one of D4vd's concerts. But here's the kicker that's going to make your jaw drop. TMZ just confirmed that D4vd's own friends thought Celeste was a 19-year-old USC student. They had no idea they were looking at a 14-year-old child. How does a middle schooler pass for a college student? And more importantly, who helped her pull off that deception? Before we dive into these explosive new developments, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button right now and ring that notification bell. This is True Crime Unraveled, and we appreciate every single comment you've left on our previous coverage. We read them all, and your insights have been incredible. Keep them coming. On Facebook and TikTok, we're True Crime Unraveled TV. Your theories and observations help us piece together these puzzles, so don't hold back. For those just joining us, let me catch you up real quick. David Anthony Burke, known professionally as D4vd, is a 20-year-old singer who shot to fame during the pandemic with his viral hit, Romantic Homicide. On September 8th, 2025, the decomposed remains of Celeste Rivas were found in the trunk of his Tesla at a Hollywood tow yard. The car had been sitting there for days after being abandoned in the Hollywood Hills. Celeste had been missing since April 2024, when she was 13 years old. She was found one day before what would have been her 16th birthday. What made this case particularly chilling were the connections. Matching tattoos on their right index fingers, songs D4vd released on Celeste's birthday every year, including one literally titled Celeste, and Discord messages suggesting their communication went back to when she was possibly 11 or 12 years old. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. What's happened in the past 2 weeks has turned this case completely on its head. Let's start with the most somber development. On September 23rd, the Los Angeles County Coroner officially released Celeste's remains to her family. The case number is now public, the date of death officially listed as September 8th, 2025, the day she was found. That means she died on or very close to her birthday. The community came together for a memorial that would break anyone's heart. Candles, flowers, photos of a smiling young girl who never got the chance to grow up. Family members, friends from school, people who barely knew her but felt compelled to show up. They all gathered to remember Celeste.
So it's just one of those unfortunate times in living in it. I just
But here's where it gets complicated. TMZ's reporting now says the body was chopped up rather than simply dismembered. There's a crucial difference here that investigators are keeping close to the vest. Was this deliberate dismemberment, or did the body break down naturally during decomposition? The autopsy report, when it's eventually released, will tell that story. But for now, the family has their daughter back, and they can finally lay her to rest. Now, let's talk about what went down at that mansion in the Hollywood Hills. We're talking about 1368 Doheny Place, a property that goes for $20,000 a month. That's not a typo. 20 grand every single month for this place. According to property records and TMZ's reporting, D4vd didn't own this house. His manager, Josh Marshall, was renting it from the owner, Mladen Trpinovic. They signed the lease in February 2024 for that eye-watering monthly rate. When the FBI and LAPD showed up with their search warrant, they weren't just looking around. They were spraying luminol everywhere. That's the chemical that makes blood glow under blacklight, even if someone's tried to clean it up. They were looking for evidence that Celeste might have been killed inside that house. But here's what's really interesting about this property. The owner says he had security cameras installed years ago, external cameras that capture everything going in and out. He says you literally cannot enter or exit that house without being recorded. Those cameras are positioned at entry points, in the backyard, on the street. And this is a big but, the owner says he doesn't have access to the footage. Out of respect for tenants' privacy, he lets them create their own accounts attached to the cameras. They control the recordings. And when they move out, they can do whatever they want with that footage. Delete it, save it, whatever. So if D4vd was living there, if Celeste was there, any footage from that time would have been under his control. And guess what? Right after the raid, D4vd terminated his lease and vanished. Just up and left. $20,000 a month, and he walks away without a word. This next piece of evidence is going to make you question everything we thought we knew about the timeline. A TikTok video has surfaced that appears to show Celeste at one of D4vd's concerts. Not from 2023, not from early 2024, but from June or August 2024. That would mean she was alive and with him before her body was discovered in September 2025. She would have been 14 years old, possibly turning 15 during this time, standing in the crowd at her alleged abuser's concert like everything was normal. Think about the implications here. If she was at his concert in August and her body was found in early September, we're talking about a narrow window when she died. It also raises questions about who knew she was there, who saw them together, and why nobody said anything. TMZ just dropped a bombshell through their senior producer Charlie Neff's reporting. They spoke to multiple friends of David from the LA music scene, and these friends were absolutely convinced that Celeste was a 19-year-old college student at USC. Let that sink in for a minute.
Crazy because, we think, how does a 14-year-old child present as a 19-year-old woman? And I was told that these people were just so sure that she was a college student. They were specific. They said that she attended USC from what they believed. And also she was seen at events where there's age restrictions, clubs and parties and stuff like this, where she had to be at least of 18 years old to get in. And we do know from law enforcement sources that she did have several fake IDs as well. So she was able to get into places where there was age restrictions. But
Charlie, it's so sad to hear that you and I are talking about a 14-year-old girl, but I keep going back to the fact that it's possible he connected with her as early as 12, and on the far end, maybe even 11. Did these friends have a long relationship with David? Like, for instance, did they know Celeste when she was maybe 13 or, God forbid, even 12?
Yeah, so the people that I spoke with just recently got to know him. He has been popular for quite some time. We know that he had been signed to a record label when he was underage. However, he has kind of blown up in the music scene the past couple years. So it would have been the past couple years that they did know her. But yeah, she would have been, about 12 years old during the time that she was coming around. And, we don't know a whole lot about who her friends were, if she did have friends. We just know that she was coming around more in his circle. And we know she wasn't really home very often because she wasn't attending school.
Well, God, if you think about it, her friends would have been elementary school friends, because it's only a couple years ago that she would have been in elementary school. And if she disappeared at 13, she would have been just into middle school. And just the whole idea that we're talking about it is so uncomfortable. But I am so curious about her story and how she presents. And as you mentioned, these friends of David said she presented very much like a 19-year-old. Did they see her driving? Did they see her driving, say, his car? Because if she's telling everyone she's a USC student, she's got to be going out of the house or leaving his presence on a regular basis.
Yeah, these people did not see her driving or ever see her driving his car or anything of the such of the matter. But, she was always with him. So, everything he did in his life, she kind of seemed to follow.
Do we know, Charlie, if these friends had any inkling that Celeste had actually moved into that mansion, that she was full on a resident of that home in the Hollywood Hills with David?
So the people that we spoke with a lot of neighbors in the area, and they don't recall seeing Celeste, or at least don't remember seeing her face. I know there are reports out there saying that she had been living with David and was at least staying there in the past couple weeks, leading up to when she was discovered.
Did these friends of David ever mention that Celeste talked about her family or her home life, or let on anything about her personal life?
Yeah, so the people that I spoke with didn't know much about her. It doesn't seem like this really came up, at least in like a social gathering or a social scene. No one really questioned much about her background. Like I mentioned, they just knew her as this college student that went to USC. It doesn't look like they really unpacked that. You kind of just take somebody at their word.
But here's what really gets me. Nobody questioned it. When she said she went to USC, they just believed her. When she showed up at adult-only events, nobody thought twice. She had crafted this entire false identity, and everyone around her bought it hook, line, and sinker. The friends described both David and Celeste as quiet, shy people. No PDA, no making out at parties. They just seemed like a young couple. A gentle guy and his college girlfriend. These friends are now, in their words, extremely shocked that he's connected to what they call a grisly murder. One of the most compelling pieces of new evidence comes from Celeste's former middle school teacher at Lakeland Village High School. This teacher didn't just know Celeste. He taught her, saw her every day, watched her disappear and come back, then disappear for good. He's got photos of Celeste in his classroom, standing in front of a poster that's still hanging there. But more importantly, he's got a photo that changes everything. It shows David in what appears to be a school parking lot, allegedly exchanging something with another student from the teacher's class. According to the teacher, Celeste ran away in January 2024. Police found her in the Hollywood Hills a month later. And remember, David lives in the Hollywood Hills. They brought her back to school. She told some friends about what happened. Then in April 2024, she disappeared again. The teacher says Celeste's friends told him it was this rapper she was with. The teacher is now using Celeste's story as a cautionary tale for his current students about the dangers of social media. Law enforcement sources are now painting a picture of Celeste's home life that might explain how she ended up in this situation. According to TMZ sources, LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division has been digging deep into Celeste's history, and they believe she came from what they're calling a troubled home. The family reportedly contacted Riverside County law enforcement at least twice to report Celeste missing. But here's what's strange. When she was found in the Hollywood Hills and returned home, it's unclear if the family called Hollywood police to find out where exactly she'd been staying. A liquor store owner near Celeste's school bus stop tells a story that adds another layer. Celeste's sister came to his store asking to review surveillance footage. She was trying to trace Celeste's steps after she ran away. The family was looking for her, but were they looking in the right places? Multiple sources confirm Celeste ran away multiple times due to trouble at home. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a pattern. A 13-year-old girl repeatedly fleeing her home, looking for something, someone, somewhere else to be. New photos have surfaced on Reddit from someone claiming to be Celeste's best friend. The post reads, "Long live Celeste. I will miss you forever, and the pain I have in my heart is unbearable. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you more, my beautiful sister. You were such a good soul, and you're with God now. May you rest easy. I love you so much until we meet again." The photos show Celeste looking older, more mature than in the missing person posters. If this really is her best friend, it raises questions. Did she know about the relationship with David? Did she try to warn Celeste? Was she one of the people mentioned in those text messages about bleeding, about fear, about trouble? Girls talk. Best friends especially talk about everything. If this friend knew what was happening and didn't speak up, she'll carry that weight forever. But if she tried to help and nobody listened, that's a different kind of burden entirely. Here's something that'll make your blood run cold. In February 2025, months before Celeste's body was found, someone left a comment on one of David's TikTok videos. The comment read, "Waiting for LAD to get you for messing with a 13-year-old girl." February 2025. Someone knew. Someone called it out publicly. And that comment? It's still there. Still visible on his TikTok. Who left that comment? How did they know? And most importantly, did they report it to authorities? Or did they think a TikTok comment was enough? Since the raid on his Hollywood Hills rental, David has essentially disappeared. No social media posts, no public statements, no sightings. His tour has been hemorrhaging cancellations, Seattle canceled with no explanation, upcoming shows in limbo. He's originally from Texas and reportedly owns property there, but there haven't been any search warrants executed on those properties. No confirmed sightings in Houston, where his family lives. His friends in the music industry describe him as very gentle, soft-spoken, shy. They say his family is conservative and was heavily involved in his career from the beginning. These are people who cannot reconcile the person they knew with what's being alleged. As of right now, no arrests have been made. David has not been named as a person of interest or a suspect officially. The LAPD's Robbery-Homicide Division is being extremely tight-lipped about their investigation. But let's read between the lines here. To get a search warrant for that Hollywood Hills home, they needed probable cause. A judge had to look at evidence and say, yes, there's enough here to justify searching this property for blood evidence. That affidavit, whenever it becomes public, is going to be explosive. Legal experts have pointed out that making an arrest too early without rock-solid evidence could jeopardize the entire case. The prosecution gets one shot at this. They need physical evidence, digital evidence, witness testimony, all lined up perfectly. In a high-profile case like this, with a defendant who has resources for top-tier legal representation, every detail has to be bulletproof. So, where does this leave us? With more questions than ever before. If Celeste was at David's concert in August 2024, who else saw her there? Are there more videos, more photos, more evidence of her being alive later than we thought? How did a 14-year-old successfully convince an entire social circle she was a 19-year-old college student? Who helped her create that fiction? Who provided the fake IDs? Why did David terminate his lease immediately after the FBI raid if he has nothing to hide? Where is he now, and who's helping him stay hidden? If the security cameras at the Hollywood Hills house captured everything, where is that footage now? Was it deleted? Is it sitting on a hard drive somewhere? Why hasn't anyone been arrested yet when the evidence seems overwhelming? The body in his car, the matching tattoos, the songs, the documented relationship with a minor. And, perhaps most haunting, how many people knew something was wrong and chose to look away? How many chances did we have to save Celeste that we didn't take? This case isn't just about one girl and one alleged predator. It's about systematic failures at every level. A home life so troubled that a 13-year-old would rather risk everything with a stranger than stay there. A school system that lost track of a repeatedly truant student. Law enforcement that found her once and returned her without digging deeper. Friends and associates who saw a child in adult spaces and never questioned it. We're talking about a world where a young teenager can disappear into the entertainment industry's shadows and nobody raises an alarm until it's too late. Where fame and money create a protective bubble around predatory behavior. where a child's cries for help get drowned out by a hit song's bass line. The investigation continues. Every day brings new tips, new evidence, new connections. The FBI doesn't raid homes for fun. They're building something. The digital forensics alone in a case like this could take months. Every text, every Discord message, every deleted file, every metadata tag tells a story. Celeste's family now has to plan a funeral for a child who should be starting her sophomore year of high school. They have to live with questions that might never be answered. They have to wonder if they could have done something different, something more, something that would have brought her home alive. The music industry is watching and waiting. Interscope has already distanced themselves from David. Venues are canceling shows. The streaming numbers for Romantic Homicide have taken on a whole new, disturbing meaning. How many times did we press play on a confession without knowing it? At the end of the day, Celeste Rivas deserved better. Better than a troubled home she felt she had to flee. Better than adults who failed to protect her. Better than an industry that looked the other way. Better than a world that let her disappear at 13 and only started caring when her body turned up at 15. Her best friend writes about unbearable pain and guilt. Her family is preparing to say goodbye. And somewhere out there, David is in hiding. His $20,000 a month life collapsed around him. Justice has a way of taking its time, but it usually finds its mark. The truth might be buried for a while, in the trunk of a Tesla, in deleted footage, in songs we didn't understand, but eventually, it surfaces. You know what they say, the cover-up is often worse than the crime. And right now, it feels like we're watching a cover-up unravel in real time. Every terminated lease, every canceled show, every day of silence from David's camp makes him look guiltier. But we need your help to keep this story alive. What details have you noticed that we might have missed? What connections can you make that investigators might not see? Your comments on our last video helped us understand aspects of this case we hadn't considered. One viewer pointed out the significance of the September 7th date before we'd even connected it to Celeste's birthday. Another caught the Discord messages we'd overlooked. You're not just viewers. You're part of this investigation. Thank you for every single comment, every theory, every observation. We read them all, and I mean that. Your engagement keeps these cases in the public eye, keeps pressure on law enforcement, keeps Celeste's memory alive. This is True Crime Unraveled on YouTube, True Crime Unraveled TV on Facebook and TikTok. Keep those comments coming. Share this video if you think justice needs to be served. Subscribe and hit that notification bell because this case is far from over, and when the next shoe drops, and it will drop, you'll want to know immediately. Remember Celeste Rivas. Remember that she was 15 years old. Remember that she deserved better. And remember that somewhere out there, someone knows exactly what happened to her. Maybe that someone is watching this right now. Until next time, this is True Crime Unraveled. Keep questioning everything. Keep demanding answers. And never, ever forget the victims. Stay safe out there.